Rebel Force Radio presents
Experimental Unit Clone Force 99. The defective clones with desirable mutations. They call themselves the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
This is the Bad Batch After Show.
Sister. Omega has a twin sister. Interesting. Dave Filoni and company were wise to hide her from us. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. A lot of surprises that they saved for us. But I would say that the biggest surprise in this two-part season finale was it kind of kicked the Mandalorian's ass this week. I'm not kidding. For me, it was punching well above its weight and told, I think, a much more compelling story than Mando did. Really, I mean, it is hard to compare. You're talking about the midway point for one show and the season finale for another show. So yeah, the stakes are going to be a lot higher going into a season finale. I recognize that, but when you think about it, the action and the consequences that our characters endured as a result of that action, I think was far greater than anything that happened on Mando this week. Just saying, if you're watching Mando and then you turn on Bad Batch, who would have thought that Bad Batch would have taken the crown, I think, this week. But we want to find out what you think here on the Bad Batch After Show. This is the last time we're going to get together talking about the Bad Batch for a little while, but we're going to make it count. We've got 2 episodes to go over, and we want to hear what is on your mind. You know, thinking about not just these last 2 episodes, though there's certainly lots to talk about, but we want to hear about your feelings about the season in general. Do you have any favorite moments, a favorite character that emerged out of season 2? How did it change, you know, your feelings about the Bad Batch and all these characters going from season 1 to season 2? So everything's on the table this week as we cover Bad Batch season 2, but primarily looking at episodes 15 and 16. And I'm not alone. I have with me, of course, as I always do, each and every week here on the Bad Batch After Show, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Yeah, this two-parter really had it all, didn't it? It had drama. It had high stakes. It had character cameos, Easter eggs. And it left us with an open ending. So similar to Empire Strikes Back, I think. So it got me thinking, I wonder if they're actually devising the Bad Batch as a 3-season show. The series would be perfect in 3 seasons, you know, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Just like the original trilogy unfolded, the middle part leaving us with a big cliffhanger, questions that need to be answered, and a member of the crew in custody of the bad guys. Much like Han and Carbonite being shipped by Boba Fett to Han Solo, we have little Omega.
You mean shipped by Boba Fett to Jabba the Hutt?
Did I say who?
You said shipped to Boba Fett by Han Solo.
Oh, Jason, I told you everything was kicking in at once before we started the show. So
I know. I think
really
we're both
sorry.
highly medicated this week.
We are, folks. You know, we haven't made a big deal about it, but both me and Jason have been kind of under the weather this week, and it's unfortunate because we had big plans for C2E2 this weekend, and those are not going to happen. So
No.
that's a big bummer. I was looking forward to reuniting with Jat and Ashley and Matt Lanter to celebrate 15 years of the Clone Wars, but unfortunately, we are both going to be at home.
But we're here with you all.
You got to take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah,
First
for
and
sure.
foremost. Yeah.
But we are here with you all, and we do have some exciting things we'll be talking about in the coming weeks. As I said, this is maybe the end of the Bad Batch After Show for this season, but it's certainly not the end of the RFR live streams. So more news on that coming up in the next couple of weeks. But let's get to it. We've got the tail of the tape. We've got 2 episodes to talk about. We are talking about the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 15, The Summit, directed by, and this is according to the title card, Nate Villanueva. not Nathaniel Villanueva. So I feel like Nathaniel is now Nate. So I think
there are two vanilla wafers working on Star Wars. Amazing.
Well, there are two Villanuevas, and I think
they
maybe
grew
he
up
just
hearing that joke on the playgrounds and school corridors. That's a vanilla wafer joke.
You think they've heard that before? The Villanueva brothers? No, I think it's one guy. So Nathaniel Villanueva going by Nate, according to the title card. I figure he assumes that we know him well enough by now after 2 seasons. We can call him Nate.
I see. Oh, I see. This is a name change.
Yeah,
I thought we had the emergence of another vanilla wafer.
No,
but
no, same wafer.
Nate is he needed to switch things up. He's kind of in a rut. He thought name change might be good, just like Pete Diddy does from time to time.
I think that's exactly what he's going for.
Sure.
Kevin, written by Matt Miknevitz. The original air date, March 29th, 2023. It premiered on Disney+. Runtime on this episode, minus end credits, about 23 minutes and 50 seconds. And that was immediately followed by episode 16 of season 2, Plan 99, directed by... I was very surprised to see that the writers and the directors of these 2 episodes were different. I assumed that this would have been written, as a 2-parter. But this was directed by Stuart Lee and written by Jennifer Corbett. Again, same original air date, March 29th, 2023, and the runtime on this one, a scant 24 minutes and 40 seconds. So a lot happened over the course of these 2 episodes, and there's much to discuss. I opened the show with that Darth Vader quote, "Sister, you have a twin sister." And that, Jim, that really surprised me because as, we look at the character of Omega, everything that we've been able to observe, everything that we've learned about her seems to suggest that she was the original. She was an original Omega. Now we have Emery Carr revealing herself as a sister, as another clone like Omega. I don't know if it's a clone of Omega. Maybe Omega is a clone of Emery Carr. I don't know which came first. We can't go by the aging because perhaps Emery has that genetic twist to accelerate her aging. We don't know how old Omega is for that matter. So it's a little confusing. But I don't know if you were as surprised as I was to find out that there are more Omegas. I was not expecting that.
No, of course not. I was sort of tipped off to something last week when she had that access card that wouldn't get her off the facility. I'm like, well, she's being held there too. Now, here's a problem I'm dealing with. Emery Carr and Dr. Scalder.
Yep.
They're so hard. I mean, one has a ponytail, one wears her hair in a bun. They both have those big goggles on. One has bangs and the other kind of combs it off to the side. But still, I'm not familiar with the 2 of them enough to make, they're so interchangeable. And so occasionally I will be referring to Carr when I'm thinking of Scalder and vice versa. And that frustrates me.
I'm with you on that. 2 different voice actresses, by the way.
What's that?
I said 2 different voice actresses,
by
the way.
Yeah.
I'm
not saying that those 2 are clones. Only Emery Carr has been revealed to be a clone, at least as far as we know.
Right. As far as we know, right?
Because she says sister, she could be the donor of the DNA. That would more likely define her as mother, but this is cloning, folks. I mean, maybe.
Well, but she
wanted a sister.
She specifically calls herself a sister. And then, of course, as I'm thinking about this, and these episodes really rattled in my head throughout the day, I was thinking, well, I guess we don't know. We never knew for sure whether or not Omega was a clone strand off of Jango Fett. That was never confirmed, was it?
No, that was never confirmed. However, you can manipulate the X and Y chromosomes to make male or female. I think. I don't know that much about DNA and cloning. I mean, for crying out loud. But it just seems to me like people send me emails who, we have listeners who somehow are experts in the field of cloning. Must be big fans of Dolly the sheep or something. But I really don't know. To me, a lot of that stuff just really seems like fantasy and everything else. I mean, that's such emerging scientific technology, but it just to go back to my point though, I just think it's so sloppy of them to have two characters serving very similar purposes that look so alike on this show. And then they lay it on us that one of them actually serves importance. And I just think it would have been better served if Dr. Scalder was a droid or something, because that gets a little that's confusing to me. Maybe if we spent more time with the characters, I would have been able to tell the two apart. But I think I've been flip-flopping Dr. Scalder and Emery Carr ever since they initially made their appearances. And they're always paired together too. You know, one goes through the door and then the other one walks in. It's like, wait, weren't you just here? Oh no, you're someone different. Oh yeah.
Well, the uniform, you're so right. I mean, the uniform and the goggles, I mean, it all
goggles
makes it very difficult. I think it's more like a visor or something that they wear.
Yeah. That's a little sloppy in my opinion. But I mean, it's really picking nits. I mean, let's get down to the nitty and gritty and talk about what Emery Carr is really saying. Is she going to be someone that may be an ally to Omega as time goes on, or is she as cold-hearted as all the other Imperials? What's her deal? Where'd she come from? It just ending the show on a cliffhanger. I hope they get back around to season 3 a lot quicker than they got around to season 2, because I don't want to have to wait a year and a half for a cliffhanger to play out. I mean, that's brutal stuff. And as television viewers, we've been conditioned to maybe watch a season end and then 3 or 4 months later, we get the conclusion. When The Sopranos got really big, I think that really changed the way that scheduling and storytelling was executed.
Well, we used to have to wait for a summer. You know, back in the days of network television, that's what summer was for. And you could sort of pass the time by watching the reruns. And I remember, you know, Jim, we've brought this up. Our listeners love it when we talk about Trek. But that Locutus cliffhanger of Star Trek The Next Generation that really propelled Next Generation to the next level, I think, of viewership, because that's all people were talking about, you know, that summer, and waiting, you know, through June, July, August, and then September, we got it resolved. But you're so right with this new sort of golden age of television where they take a much more cinematic approach. They're shooting essentially 8, 10, 12-hour movies, chopping them up and throwing them out there. I remember, you're right, Sopranos. I remember Mad Men, sometimes 18 months between seasons, a year and a half. I mean, it's crazy. I'm with you. I also hope that we get an actual season 3 and that this show's not on the chopping block.
That would be tough. I think the season 3's already been green lit.
I hope so.
For them to leave us with a cliffhanger, they're going to bring us a season 3. I don't worry about that. I think the light is already green.
If you're not worried, then I'm not going to be worried.
Yeah. That would be really harsh.
Speaking of worry, it sounds like the Empire is slightly worried about a clone revolt, a clone revolution. This was the first time in the episode The Summit that we actually hear them mention the very idea that it's a possibility, and Tarkin is pretty quick to say that they would deal with it unilaterally, and I forget the other word, but definitely unilaterally and swiftly. They're going to get rid of the any chance of a clone revolution. But I thought the idea, you know, we've talked about it a lot in these after shows, and that could be sort of the manifestation of the Clone Wars, as opposed to Clone War, where we would see the stormtroopers, the conscripted troops going up against the clones. But to hear it coming out of the trilling mouth of Tarkin was pretty cool.
Yeah. That summit was a little bit of a letdown. I was expecting a big whoop-de-doo, and it's 4 old guys sitting around a table by themselves.
Yeah, the briefing room in A New Hope had
more life,
more people. But
it felt like a bigger deal. So can we as long as we're talking about the summit itself,
Yeah.
can we do a roll call around the room? Of course, we had the animation debut of Krennic, Commander Krennic. He had an update on Planet Stardust, of course, voiced by Ben Mendelsohn, with very limited amount of dialogue, but that was clearly Ben Mendelsohn.
It was. He was in the,
Succotash, it's Ben Mendelsohn.
he was in the
He's
credits.
He's back with a update on Project Stardust.
Yeah, but you know what? He only had one line, and I think that line could have actually been taken from Rogue One.
Oh.
So I don't know
really?
that it was. I don't know. It was definitely Mendelsohn. He was credited in the end credits, but I don't know if that was new dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something else. I assumed it was probably brand new stuff, but you're saying it could be recycled.
Could be. It was just sort of like an affirmation, like yes, Governor Tarkin, or yes, Grand Moff Tarkin, or whatever it was. It was some sort of
yeah. You're right. It could have just been stripped from a vocal track from the film, but
right.
Still, I think he's going to be an emerging character. I think in season 3 we'll see more Krennic. I don't think this is just one and done for him. I hope it's not. And I would love to see more of that power struggle between Krennic and Tarkin play out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a great characterization in animation. First time we saw him as an animated character.
Yeah.
Who else did we have? We had this guy, and he kind of had like a Sean Connery type accent. This was Barton Coburn. This is Barton.
That's the name
Coburn.
of the officer?
Yeah. This is Barton Coburn, voiced by D. Bradley Baker.
Yes.
Last time we saw him would have been Clone Wars Season 5, according to my records. This was a character that showed up in Season 3 and Season 5. This
cool. I
Barton
didn't know that.
Coburn. Kind of, I've got, it's hard sometimes with these captures. They none of them really had good photo moments during the summit because they were all looking at that holographic screen, which actually kind of added to sort of the eeriness of it. You never saw them, crystal clear. But that's the old Barton Coburn. And then this other dude is, I think I have a shot of him. Hold on. A little behind the scenes here, guys. You can see me flipping through all my photos. This cat. All right, so he was right out of Rogue One. Hurst Ramadi. Look at that hair. He looks like he stepped right off the set of A New Hope in 1976, but no. Andy De La Tour was the actor that played him in Rogue One and also did the voice for this episode. So that was really cool.
I don't remember him at all from Rogue One.
Yeah,
what's his name?
This is Hurst Ramadi, Romodi. Here's a little trivia. The character is actually talked about in the original Star Wars novelization. And his dialogue was later given to Mahdi.
Oh, I know who this guy is. The only time you see him he is actually in A New Hope. He appears to give Tarkin some sort of message on the Death Star bridge and the main control room there. He comes up. You only see him from behind, really. But yes, he is a character from A New Hope and one that's been around for a while. Hurst Ramadi looks like a fun guy.
He's reminding me of an actor. I can't. Maybe is it Jeffrey Tambor? Who is it? There's something. There's something. Or a John Lithgow, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. He's giving me a John Lithgow vibe a little bit there. But
I'm seeing David Koechner myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, a little thin in the face, but yeah, in the eyes and the old
Koechner.
horseshoe. Yeah.
Afternoon delight.
But the real star of the show at this summit was Hemlock. And Hemlock is there to talk about his plans for the clones. And as he puts it, his plan solves a couple of problems. As we speculated, Hemlock is really interested in the clones because they can provide they can give him, subjects for his experiments. Really, that's what it comes down to. And in so doing, it also prevents them from engaging in some sort of revolution. So it's sort of a win-win. He's there to say, look, just look the other way, because this Hearst Ramadi, he kind of speaks up and says, whoa, do you have their permission to do this? And he's like, no, they're property. They are property of the Empire. We don't need to get their permission. And he's like, well, I don't know. I served with clones. I don't know how I feel about this. And then Tarkin goes so far as to say, yeah, I served with clones too. And I was always shocked about, under the Jedi, they really got a sense of individuality. That was another thing, Jim, that I thought was so cool, is that we've been talking about that since the Clone Wars and our roundtables about how the Jedi was sort of not so much the source, but they were the reason that these clones were able to come into their own and find their individuality. It was definitely the Jedi. It was certainly not the Republic officers that they served with. It was the Jedi. And Tarkin called that out.
He sure did. He sure did. And he prefers his white armored soldiers to be automatons who only do as they're told. And with that, however, it removes ability to think and adapt to situations if they're just following orders. That's why the clones were successful. That's why the clones could hit something with a blaster bolt. These TKs, they're hamstrung because they don't have independent thought. They just follow orders. They only do what they're told. It's like Michael Scott driving with the GPS explaining to him where to go, and it says turn left, so he drives into the pond simply because the GPS told him to, regardless of whether or not it was the smart thing to do.
Well, I like the theme of the boot-licking normies, human beings, being the real automatons, and the clones that were bred specifically to be good soldiers that follow orders. They're the ones that are fighting for their individuality. It's almost like you sort of crave the thing that you don't have. So them not having the individuality because of them being clones, all looking the same, they found all these different ways to express themselves, their hairstyle, the markings on their armor. Whereas, again, the rank and file normie TKs, they're more than happy to actually surrender their individuality for the security and the safety of the Empire. It's a very cool and smart idea to play around with.
As long as we're talking troopers, I enjoyed the debut of these TK shock troopers with the red pauldrons that showed up at Tarkin's compound. I don't think we've ever seen them before. TK troopers with the red.
Yeah, let me see if I snapped a shot of them. It's not
cool.
Jumping out at me. So I don't know. When did they show up? They showed up when the Bad Batch.
Anytime Tarkin needed, about 4 or 6 of them walked into that briefing room once the shades closed down.
Once the shades closed down. Yeah.
And they had sort of the accoutrement of an ARC trooper mixed in with a McQuarrie TK.
Damn, I missed them. Cool. I didn't get a shot of those guys. Sorry about that. They all look alike to me sometimes. So Hemlock Solution. Now, also, as we mentioned, great seeing Krennic there, and Project Stardust getting a name dropped, which is cool.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so that was fun. I would have liked to have seen his presentation to the group. I wish they would have, maybe given us a little bit more of Krennic. So it was really just a cameo. But this does put into perspective, knowing that this is, let's see, how many, this is a matter of, a year or two after the end of the Clone Wars at the most.
At the most.
Yeah.
It's because we're not even seeing Imperial Star Destroyers yet.
Right.
We're still seeing those Republic cruisers, and TIE fighters have yet to debut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So do
this
you
is
think
just a
that this
matter
was
of time.
more of a pitch? Was this an update you think he was providing, or was it sort of his pitch? Like, I have this
Or
idea.
what if what if they started talking about it and labor was the big issue? And so Tarkin says, well, you can use prisoners. We can set you up with prisoners on Narkina or wherever, and they can help build this thing. And then, well, that's not going to be enough, Tarkin, says
Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck Krennic. And so then they get the idea, hey, well, why don't we just take some of those clone troopers and put them to work? You know, that way we can put them to work, give them a purpose.
Boy, we do know
get
that
them out of our hair.
that the Death Star was built on the backs of slaves. We just don't know who all the slaves were. Wookiees, that was talked about. But wow, what an idea that the conquered clone troopers ended up being the ones building the Death Star. That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. Maybe
I just
we'll
thought
see
the proximity of the two conversations going on in this summit. I just thought, well, what if you kind of blended the two together? What would you come up with? Well, clone troopers building the Death Star. That's what it would be.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Another big cameo that we got that I certainly wasn't expecting, and that is Saw Gerrera. Saw just showing up out of nowhere as he does, and Saw just, like a bull in a china shop, causes lots of problems, and I would go so far as to say he's responsible ultimately for Tech's death. It was Saw.
Well, yeah, because the explosions shook up the rail cars and knocked them out of sync with the cable and whatever. But also, it's a shame that they didn't have more of those explosives to take out the actual tower itself, because there's top Imperial brass in there. And I know that it was thrown out there, well, if you knock them out, they're just going to get replaced by someone else. Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, the guy who builds the Death Star, the guy who commands the Death Star, those are some big targets.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, in our own universe, when you take out some of these top terrorists, and that, there's always going to be someone to take their place. But when you knock out a top target like that, you knock out, everything they know. And they don't. Right. No one has the opportunity to download everything that they know into their, especially in organizations where power is sort of the thing. So how open do you think a guy like Krennic or Tarkin is going to be to his direct reports? Probably not very. So when he goes, a lot of that tribal knowledge, in the Empire goes along with him. So it can do a lot of damage. But Hunter, sort of. Really, I mean, Hunter was not wanting the bombs to go off because he wanted to save his brothers. That's really what it was about. He wanted to be able to track Hemlock so that they could find wherever these clones were being held and rescue them, rescue Crosshair. And Saw says, no, we're not canceling this mission just to save a few prisoners. Sorry, this is way too important. We have the opportunity to really knock these guys out. Of course, he doesn't. He ends up killing Tech. He ends up killing, maybe some stormtroopers. But ultimately, it's that action that, we're warned about Saw. Saw's a loose cannon.
Yes.
Saw, he doesn't play nice with others. And I don't know. Would you consider this a victory for Saw's group?
Oh, well, Saw would, yeah. Saw definitely would consider this a victory.
I mean, they all walked away. Krennic walked away. Hemlock walked away.
But,
Coburn.
They were aware of the summit, right? I mean, that's why the timing was what it was. I don't know if we're ever exposed to that. What Saw and his militia understood about what was going on up on top of the tower there. I think he was just looking to cause damage to the Empire, and this was just the closest place to do it. And so he was hell-bent on destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he was taking a head count of who's up in the tower. Maybe he wasn't even aware of that. He was just trying to hit it right in the heart, as opposed to maybe taking a headshot.
I just saw a note here. I just got to throw this out. The chat here. This is PES. RFR copies Screen Crush for sure.
RFR copies Screen Crush.
I don't even know what a Screen Crush is. So maybe this Screen Crush, whatever it is copying RFR. Just throwing it out there.
I don't know. I don't watch any other coverage of these shows. I don't even discuss these episodes with people until these
Folks,
microphones get
Mac
turned
won't
on.
even really discuss it with me.
No, not before the
And-
show. Jason always is like, how about that part? I'm like, save it for the show.
Well, Tyler and I like to have a little chat, and Mac's like, save it for the show.
The texts that come through from the Jedi Council that directly address these episodes, I don't respond to
I've
until
noticed
I've
that.
done my time on the microphone.
Generalizations
I
Mac
don't
will
read other
respond to,
websites.
but nothing specific.
I don't look at any other footage. I listen to no Star Wars podcasts, except for mocktails from the cantina.
Here's
And that's
Peter.
just because I'm friends with all those
All
guys.
right. Peter says,
And
hey,
they
love me
entertain
some
you.
Ryan at Screen Crush. Okay, so Ryan is
Right.
a guy at Screen Crush, but these guys have been doing this for eons. Yeah, we have been doing this for a while. I mean, it's great that there's other commentators out there. Don't get me wrong, but certainly not copying anybody. It's been a long time.
I never felt the need to reference someone else's notes for these shows. I'm coming in here as clean as possible, and I go to great lengths to make sure that someone else isn't in my head. when we're
But
doing
I will
these
say
episodes.
that if this Ryan guy or any other Star Wars commentator is having similar conclusions as us, it's because he's probably been following this stuff a long time too. So I think a lot of us are coming to similar conclusions about this stuff. But
Yes.
anyway, not to go down on that rabbit hole.
That came out of nowhere.
That sure did. So really, Saw, I think, comes across as, well, what we know about Saw, right? I mean, he's a loose cannon. He's impulsive, and he doesn't necessarily always think things through. He's a blunt instrument. He wants to blow stuff up. Almost said the other word. Wants to blow stuff up and worry about it later. And in Andor, that's the problem. I mean, that's what Stellan Skarsgård, but you see how quick these names drop out of my head. The character that Stellan Skarsgård plays, that's one of the things that worries him about Saw.
Rail.
Luthen, thank you. Luthen. Luthen in Andor is very concerned about Saw, and Saw is a very divisive character, and you can see why. I will say, Jim, that watching Andor and Mando and Bad Batch, I am pretty excited and stoked at how well these shows are matching up with each other. I really am. I think that they're doing finally a really, really great job. And I know that there's not a Kevin Feige type character overseeing this stuff, but I got to call it like I see it. And right now I'm tipping the hat to the writers and the creatives at Lucasfilm right now, because I think they're doing a consistent job in making sure that these shows line up.
I hear you. And I see what you're saying and stuff. And after 11 years, it's about time they got it right. But they've been so directionalist too. And it took a guy with a grand vision like Jon Favreau to come knocking on the Lucasfilm doors and saying, hey, guess what I have? I have an idea. And it's more than an idea. It's a fully fleshed out concept. And I can just keep this stuff coming as long as you want it coming.
Yeah.
So that's what Lucasfilm has really needed. They've been doing too much of the pass the baton method, where it's just too many voices at the table, sometimes the wrong voices at the table.
Yeah.
But Favreau has given them the affordability of some consistency. So way to go, John.
Yeah. No, I really do think that they're doing a great job of getting this whole universe. You know, we just saw Zeb on Mandor. I keep wanting to say Mandalorian. On Mandalorian this week. And so, yeah, it is. I don't mind these things coming together as long as they do it well. And so far, so good. Sid. That dirty traitor. I guess we knew this was coming. Sid. Can you believe she has the gall to sit there and offer a grieving wrecker a free drink? A drink while she sits there and waits for these imps to show up and arrest our boys. I mean, and take Omega off captive. What a scumbag she is. This is not a surprise, but we finally got the Sid payoff. The only downside is, and I was saying this to a friend of mine earlier today, I wish that when they dismissed her, like, you can go, that she would have walked away and they'd have just shot her right in the back and she wouldn't have had a chance to spend any of that money. Judas Iscariot, yeah, she's a wolf in lizard scales.
Ooh. Well, here's the thing about Sid. I mean, of course, we've been speculating. It seemed really very telegraphed that she was going to turn them in sooner or later, and she's doing it out of necessity, not because she has some real strong animosity toward the crew. She's doing it because she has to do it. They brought the heat down on her.
She's bringing she using the Lando excuse? I had no choice.
Yes, she is, because if she tipped them off and they split, then her hide might have been on the line. And then you would have gotten what you wanted, Jason. Sid with a blaster bolt in her chest or something. But it's the reason, I feel this way is because she was showing remorse after accepting her reward.
She did look sad. She looked sad.
Yes. I think there was some remorse there. And I think this is going to come back around to
look at that face right there. Look at her.
Yeah, well,
she looks kind of sad.
She's making the tough decisions.
Do you think that's it for Sid on this series,
No.
The Bad Batch?
No, I think it's going to come. The remorse is there for a reason.
Redemption?
It's going to pay off. She's going to somehow assist the Bad Batch in season 3. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Somehow. I don't know how, obviously, but I don't think we're done with Sid.
Yeah.
She's been a steady feature in this show for the first 2 seasons. I don't think I think the remorse is telegraphing something to us.
Preston says she doesn't look sad. She looks guilty. That's true. It's kind of the look that my dog gets on his face.
People go to great extremes to relieve themselves of their guilt. Believe me. They do. I mean, a lot of times people, what they do is motivated by guilt.
Right.
So I don't think we're done with Sid. No. And I think the relationship with her will eventually come back around to benefit the Bad Batch at some point when they need her in season 3.
Yeah, and here I was so skeptical of Fee, and Fee seems to be the real deal. I mean, not only did she take the Bad Batch to the promised land of Pabu, but she had her eyes on Tech. There was a little romance I think she was looking for. And that was a great exchange, good writing, good performance, vocal performances by D. Bradley Baker, of course, and Wanda Sykes. This little, she's like, it's called a conversation, Tech. You look at the other person, and I Tech was uncomfortable, but it's really just a shame that these 2 kids didn't have a chance to make a go of it, because of all the Bad Batchers, you'd think Hunter, he's sort of the hunky leader, he might have a chance at settling down with a woman, but Tech, I mean, come on, the guy's barely functional outside of running his algorithms and whatnot. But
Right.
there it was.
Such a nerd.
Right.
But his feet was mad. He was going to leave without saying goodbye. And this has been like one of the most down low, under the radar relationship I think we've ever seen in Star Wars.
There was some shipping going on,
next
though.
to Anakin and Padme, of course. Was there a heartbeat there anywhere? I don't know. But because we never got anything outside of little comments being made about Fee and Tech, about them maybe having some sort of romantic chemistry with each other. It's only been just sort of hinted at briefly in dialogue. But now she's saying, hey, you know, she's really acting kind of possessive of him right now. And it's interesting because of what happens to Tech.
Yeah.
For them to have this kind of goodbye without saying goodbye. I think that's interesting. But I don't think this is the last we're going to get of the Tech Fee.
Oh, really?
Romance.
You don't think
Yeah.
we've seen the last of Tech?
No, I don't think we're done with Tech at all.
Oh,
Do not
really?
think
Because
we're done
last
with
time
Tech
I
at all.
saw, his goggles were being thrown at Hunter by Hemlock. You know, oh, I'm sorry. This is all that's left of your friend.
No, wrong. Wrong, because Hemlock is taking him into the lab to do some tests on him. This is not the end of not the end of Tech. You know, a lot of people were saying on social media that they were weeping for Tech. I've seen it in the chat. People weeping for Tech. I'm telling you, you guys got nothing to cry about. Tech will return. He will return.
Yeah.
There's no body shown to us.
Right.
And we also know
pretty
that,
high fall.
Well, Star Wars characters look, you don't see what's underneath that cloud.
That is
cover
true.
there. I
We
mean,
don't see that.
he could be like right over a mattress factory or something, you know,
Right.
an open air mattress factory.
Or maybe one of those overhangs in the old timey shops, you know, you bounce, the cartoon characters used to bounce down the awnings.
The awning. Boing. He flies up out of the awning and lands in the back of a mattress truck. How'd I get here? You know, where are my goggles? But I do think that he survived, and I think that he's been taken into the custody of the Empire. And that's what's up with that.
Well, I want to talk a little
we
bit.
We didn't see the body. That's all.
Okay,
I don't.
so
we
no
didn't see
body?
Han Solo's body either, but Han took a lightsaber into the stomach.
Oh, they didn't leave that ambiguous at all, did they?
No, that was not.
In case you're keeping score, he got impaled by a lightsaber, fell off a bridge, and then the whole damn planet exploded. So,
yeah. Kind of
no way
slams the door shut on the old Carillion.
Right.
But,
Make sure that there's no doubt in these nerds' minds. Oh, man. Let's talk about sacrifice, because I think this is a huge theme, not just of these episodes, but of, I think, really the Bad Batch series in a lot of ways. Sacrifice of the clones, sacrifice of the Bad Batch, sacrifice of Tech, certainly. And Omega learns this lesson, you know, as she is sitting on the bed grieving Tech and angry that Hunter doesn't want to jump on the Marauder and go and find him.
Yeah.
You know, he tells her that, you know, he sacrificed himself for the squad, for the greater good. And then it's not that long before Omega herself is faced with the opportunity to make a similar sacrifice, as Hemlock says, hey, if you want to save your friends, come on down. They will live. They'll survive. We just want you. And all I want to do is reunite you with Nala Se. And the one thing that I kind of regret about this episode is, because I think this was an opportunity for a great moment for Omega to show that she's learning. She's learning from the Bad Batch. She learned from Tech Sacrifice that she wants to sacrifice herself. But before she's able to make that decision, Scorch comes and stuns her and takes her off. And I was a little disappointed with that because I wanted to see Omega make that choice because the Batch had sacrificed themselves.
No, she said she wouldn't do something like that because she didn't trust Hemlock. She clearly says that. I don't trust Yara. And like I was telling Swank before the show started, Omega often delivers dialogue like she has too many teeth in her mouth. Okay. Kidding, guys. I'm kidding. I love Omega. And she's smart and she's savvy. And she says right there, she's like, I don't believe you. I'm not turning myself over just to watch you kill my friends right in front of me while I'm in your custody. That's what's going through her head. And I don't blame her at all. You think they were going to let the Bad Batch walk?
No.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I don't blame her. I was saying that I was sort of questioning the writers in not giving her the opportunity to make the sacrifice. But you make a great point. It's just like Crosshair. He doesn't want to deal with those people on Mount Tantus because he knows he's a dead man walking no matter what. That's why he's not willing to give up the location of the Bad Batch.
Yes. And what do you do with the story then?
Right.
So you take Omega and say, okay, guys, beat it. And you have these 3 extremely dangerous, knowledgeable warriors with a chip on their shoulder because you took their daughter.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, but it's happening.
They could never let the Bad Batch walk. And even earlier in the episode, Hemlock expressed fascination with Hunter's paternal instincts.
Yes.
From a clone.
So, I mean, creepy or what? The guy's voice never modulates. I mean, it's always, it's great work by the actor that's playing him. Hemlock
Jimmy Simpson.
Jimmy Simpson. Doing a great job. And he plays it and he's just fascinated. He's looking around at these clones. He's just so fascinated at their behavior and everything. He wants to take it all in. It's so creepy. But I tell you what, I mean, it's like right out of the old Schwarzenegger Commando movie, like, a guy like Hunter that has nothing left to lose anymore and all he wants to do is get his daughter back. That is an enemy you do not want to make.
No. I mean, you're just unleashing a fury that is going to come back and hold you accountable.
Yeah. Does he
look? You've already seen these guys are able to penetrate top secret facilities like Tantus. You can't let that. These guys, Omega would have turned herself over. And they would have just shot these guys right in front of her.
Right. So she gave him a fighting chance. Now I have a question, though. Help me out with this. What happened to the damn tracker on Hemlock's ship? Because they put a tracker on it successfully. And then later in the episode, Echo says, we can't track his ship. So my question is, did that ship blow up? Did Saw Gerrera blow up that ship and the ship that he grabs Omega with is a different ship? Is that what happened?
That's the only thing I got.
Yeah.
That was not anything that I held on to.
Connor says it got incinerated. So that must be what it was.
Got incinerated.
Yeah. Jeff says it exploded. Okay. So it got blown up. Okay. Thanks, guys. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Saw took that ship. Preston says, I didn't catch that.
Okay.
Saw took the one with
moving parts.
With the tracker.
A lot of moving parts.
Oh, it was blown up thanks to Saw Gerrera. Yeah. I don't know if Saw took Saw's really screwing the pooch on everything.
Yeah. But then they would be able to still track the ship, and they would assume that was Hemlock's ship, and it would lead them to Saw Gerrera.
Yeah. Scott here on the chat says they zoomed in on the tracker before it went boom. Okay. Well, those details are
catch.
is important.
Good catch.
Yeah. Very good catch.
Good catch.
Here's an interesting one. How about this? I don't know if you believe it, because everything Hemlock says is a lie, but he says that Tarkin is interested in talking to the Bad Batch personally. You buy that? You think Tarkin is interested in the Bad Batch?
You wanted to, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
What does
So
Tarkin
Tarkin
want to
wants
talk
to
about? What
interrogate
does he want
these
to talk to
guys?
the Bad Batch about?
What would he want to talk to the Bad Batch about? That's very interesting. Tarkin wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
Maybe he was going to make him a deal they can't refuse. Join
But
me.
he was
pulls one of those.
Right. He could have been pulling one of those. He's fascinated by them. I mean, obviously Tarkin, he's a military tactician. He sees value. He sees talent, and yeah, that one threw me a little bit. He says, take these guys. Tarkin wants to talk to them personally. But maybe you have some theories in the chat and on the phone lines. We already got a hot switchboard. Give us a call, 708-866-1737. Lots to talk about. We threw a lot of topics on the table, but we're also interested in your favorite moment, maybe your favorite episode of season 2, favorite character that might have emerged this season. There were a lot of characters. I've been keeping a list. Every episode when a new character shows up and emerges, I've been adding them onto the list. Maybe you're a real Governor Groton fan. Maybe you love Bolo. Maybe you love Ketch. Maybe you were excited to see Gunji back.
Yeah, I was.
Any Yana fans
excited.
out there? What about Slip and Cade? Remember those guys? Anyway, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Patreon. Marty. Marty is calling in from Georgia. Hello, Marty. Yo, Marty.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's going on? Chut to you.
Not too much, guys. Not too much, guys. It's been a Bad Batch. Has been a heck of a ride. It was a lot of ups and downs. I definitely felt like there was a slowish. I felt like it was there were some episodes where it was extremely dark and extremely gritty, and then all of a sudden, we're in a pod race. So, loved the show. I have an overwhelming desire to see Sid meet a very gruesome end.
Oh, me too.
After the end of this show.
Me too.
I wanted that blaster bolt to go right through her stupid lizard face. Sorry, my cat. I wanted that blaster bolt to go right through her stupid lizard face.
Yeah, I did too. I agree with you about the ups and downs. I gotta say, I would have probably enjoyed the season better if it would have been 8 episodes instead of 16. Because when this show clicks, man, this show is good. I was telling friends at the day job, like, you got to watch this show. It really is good. But then there's, as you point out, there's a lot of filler stuff, and I think they could just do away with it. So 8 episodes would have been good for me this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, it was incredibly awesome episodes. I have a weird love of Krennic just because I remember when Rogue One was coming out, I just thought his costume was awesome. And I actually dressed up as him for a Halloween party.
Oh, yeah? The white cape and all?
Out. So the white cape and everything. And it was, and I even had like little, I taped a sheet of paper with his insignia on my chest too, on my shirt. So love seeing Krennic. I love how they're gradually hinting at Stardust without explicitly going into it, keeping it mysterious, like in Andor and Rebels and now in this. So love the show. Appreciate y'all for all you do. And
Well, what do you think? What do you think about? Well, what do you think about this? This idea about Saw Gerrera and really him kind of crapping the bed for the Bad Batch, responsible at least indirectly for Tech's death.
Yeah, when I saw him, I was thinking, okay, cool, it's Saul. And then like, oh no, it's Saul.
Oh no,
He's
it's
Saul.
Saul.
Everything up. And it's like, oh great. And then, oh great. So I definitely, I see where they're talking about in Rogue One and Rebels about him being a loose cannon, how he just does not think it through. And last comment I want to make, if a nerd like Tech can try and get game, that gives a glasses-wearing fellow like myself hope. So thank you for all you guys do.
That's right,
Appreciate
dude.
it greatly.
Hey, thanks, Marty. That's really kind of you to say. And yes, of course, there is hope for you. Just got to get the right goggles. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, ditch the glasses, go with the goggles. You know, the NBA guys, they do that.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Maddie in the chat mentioned possible motivation for Tarkin wanting to talk to the Bad Batch. She reminds us that Tarkin met the Bad Batch in the very first episode of season 1. And he was interested in them because the new government works in unorthodox reasons, and so does the Bad Batch. Perhaps they can work together. And Nala Se was talking up the Bad Batch to Tarkin. He watched them go through a training routine there on Camino, and he's gave them a mission. He gave them their first mission.
Wow!
In the series,
I forgot all about that.
Out these insurgents.
I forgot all about that. Yes, thank you,
yeah.
Maddie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us of that. That he does have a history with the Bad Batch, going back to that first episode.
And he was very interested in recruiting them. He was, watching their careers with great interest. And he's actually the guy who sent them on the mission to go deal with Onderon and the Saw Gerrera's militia. So it kind of came all around full circle here in this last episode.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. We do have a few slots available on the switchboard, so give us a call, 708-866-1737. Meanwhile, we got John David here saying Jimmy Mack was right. He called Tech's demise early in the season.
I did, because of the sudden focus on Tech this year.
Made him a target.
I was like, well, it's just like the way they edit up TV shows like Big Brother and Survivor. The people who get voted out early always get a lot of screen time. And then they're gone.
Okay.
And so I was sensing something similar with the rollout of this spotlight on Tech that's been going on this season. I'm like, okay, they want us to get to know this character. They want us as viewers to build rapport with this character, so we really feel it when he dies at the end of season 2. But again, I am optimistic that we'll get Tech back in action. We'll see. We'll see if the show's going to put on some big boy pants or not. That's the thing. Is the show going to stick to because Star Wars has not been doing that? I mean, does anybody remember that Inquisitor Reva?
Oh, and the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah. Yikes! Grand Inquisitor, Darth Maul, of course.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
Well, Eric from Phoenix. Wow, what a nice tip here you're giving us tonight.
Oh, thanks, Eric.
That's very sweet.
Really sweet.
He says, just got done with the last episode, 5 minutes into the live stream. I won't lie. I got dust in my eye or something when Echo fell. I think he meant Tech. When Tech fell. Andrea is a huge Tech fan. She's convinced nobody means Echo. He keeps saying Echo here. I think he means Tech. That Tech is still alive. I think she's right. We got it, Eric. Thanks very much, buddy. So Andrea from Phoenix thinks that Tech is still alive. Jimmy Mack thinks that Tech is still alive. So when you were suggesting his demise earlier this season, did you think it was going to be something that looked like he died, or did you really think that Tech was? Yeah, were you predicting a fake out, or do you think it was really going to happen?
No, I wasn't. Because I would like to see this series go 3 seasons, and I want all these guys to be put in their place to find their post-war existence beyond the big story of Star Wars. I want to see a full story play out for these guys. We don't get that often enough in Star Wars either. Remember, we used to talk about how does Ahsoka die? Because everyone was so convinced she's outliving every character ever in Star Wars at this point. So I would like to see a real just tight story with the Bad Batch. Because where do you go with these guys after all this stuff they're going? I mean, they just can't go on nonstop adventures for forever.
Hunter says in this episode, the galaxy's changed. He wants to hang it up.
Yeah. Galaxy's changed. So have we.
So have we.
Purpose.
And Omega, as much as she has stars in her eyes and wants to take on the galaxy and all of that, she looks at him and nods. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm over this. I'm done. We've lost Tech. Echo's no longer with us. It's too much. The stakes are too high.
She's been exposed to a different existence on the planet Pabu. She sees that there's a different life out there. She was raised in the sterile environment of Kamino and hanging around with clones and Kaminoans. And then she gets exposed to life off planet, gets real excited when she discovers dirt for the first time.
Yeah.
And falls into a comfortable lifestyle with these former warriors, these ex-soldiers, these militia guys, these mercenaries. And she falls in, and that's no problem for her because she doesn't know any better. But now she's been to Pabu. She's played with kids her own age.
Yeah.
She's been away from all the stress and the pressure. She's been out sailing. She sees that there's a different life,
Right.
So now she knows. This whole series is about the education of Omega and taking her from the most sheltered lifestyle a kid could have to, I think, eventually ending up with her living the normal life of a child away from all of the horrors of war. And she's earned it. I don't think there's anything special about Omega. I don't think she has force abilities or she's just Omega. And even the Empire doesn't recognize any sort of special qualities that she has. She just, they use her as bait. That's all she's being used as, is bait.
I wonder if Connor here in the chat isn't right, that, the metaphor with the earthquake in last week's episode on Pabu, that the Bad Batch can never enjoy peace, that's their tragedy, that's their fate. I've been wondering that myself, and it's
wherever they go, destruction follows in their
right.
Way. They're like the Three Stooges. Wherever they go, the place gets trashed.
Maybe a little more tragic. Speaking of the Three Stooges, he's not a stooge. He's one of our favorites here. It's time for Blake's Take right here on Rebel Force Radio and
Blake's
the Bad
Take.
Batch After Show.
Chut.
Chut, my boy.
Chut, Blake.
What you got for us?
So this two-parter episode. Yesterday, whenever they aired, was really good. I loved watching Mando and Bad Batch. But sad it has to end already.
Yeah.
The Bad Batch. There are some filler episodes. I know you guys were talking about that, where they aren't that good with the story. But it gave us more to talk about.
That is true. Gave us fodder for these after shows, buddy.
Yeah, and it all led up to these final two episodes.
So you're saying that it wasn't filler because it got us to this point?
Yeah. All right. So last week I was talking about how they might start a Clone Wars, the second Clone Wars, where it's the clones versus the Imperial Stormtroopers. That might still happen, but just not with Echo, Rex, and all the other clone troopers. It might be the Bad Batch. But they'll have Omega and Tech. They might just call Bad Batch Season 3 the Clone Wars. But the way Omega is going to get out of that prison is, I know I was talking about this last week, how she was learning how to fly.
Right.
She's going to steal one of the ships. Kind of like how, yes, she'll steal one of the ships, and then she'll go to Pabu, and the Bad Batch will already be there because they'll just be trying to find her through comm links and radio.
So you think now,
like to try to figure out.
Blake, are you saying that you think that she's going to escape on her own? You think she'll have help there?
She might have.
You think Crosshair might help her?
She might get. No, well, maybe Crosshair might help her get out of the building, but not help her fly.
Yeah. What do you think the odds are? What do you think the odds are that she could be helped not just by Crosshair, but what about Tech? What if Tech is retrieved and rehabbed there at the hands of Emery Carr and Dr. Scalder too?
Tech ain't gone. There's no way Tech is gone.
You don't think Tech is gone? Okay.
Because maybe he just dropped his goggles or something, and so they just figured they can take that to them to make them think that Tech is just dead, but they have Tech. So whenever they took the goggles and gave them to the Bad Batch, they just thought he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's not.
He's not. Okay. All right. And what was your favorite moment or episode this season?
That is a really good question. There is a lot of good parts. There's a couple good episodes. The season finale so far is really it was really good.
Yeah.
I really liked the one episode to where they were on the one planet to where the kids, the actor of Spider-Man and stuff stole their shit and all that.
Oh, right.
I thought that episode really good.
Yeah, that's right, when they got their ship stolen and they had to retrieve it. Well, some of my favorite moments of Bad Batch Season 2 was definitely Blake's take. Blake, you calling in on these after shows. It has been awesome, buddy. We got a few more episodes of Mando, so we hope we can hear some of your takes on that. But your money, Blake's money, is that Tech is still alive and that Omega is going to fly herself out of Mount Tantus and show back up on Pabu and reunite with the Bad Batch. Season 3.
Yeah, and she might have one of the Kaminoans with her.
And might
Kaminoans.
And might have Nala Se with her. Now that's interesting. Wouldn't that?
Yeah.
Maybe Nala Se is gonna retire to Pabu.
Because Nala Se, just like how they were saying, she has an attachment with Omega.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But, they seemed kind of cold to each other there on that platform. Omega didn't seem relieved to see that Nala Se was still alive. She just asked some, more self-serving questions. Why did they bring me here? Omega she didn't seem like she gave two craps that Nala Se was there.
No
what's
warmth,
Nala Se?
no connection.
No, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
I predict that Crosshair,
maybe
Tech, and Omega will team up and bust out of that facility, and they'll take Emery Carr with them, and they'll leave Nala Se behind. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Well, thanks, Blake. Appreciate it, buddy, and we'll catch up with you maybe next week on the Mandalorian after show. Let's see. We got some more. Yep, we got some more super chats here. Oh, Sal B. Crum, one of our favorites. Very kind of you. Sal says, visually stunning and great action sequences. I had a feeling that goodbye from Fee was the kiss of death for Tech. Will Rex rally the clones for a rebellion/rescue mission? Well, right now, no one knows where Mount Tantus is, at least on the good guy side. Now they do often find ways to find out that information, but
can I point something out?
Yes.
And this is just like kind of a nitpicky thing, but you and me, we both call it Mount Tantus, and they've never referred to it as Mount Tantus on the show. They refer to the planet as Tantus. In Heir to the Empire, Mount Tantus was the Emperor's stronghold on the planet Wayland. Remember that? But they instead call the planet Tantus now. And
I just called it Mount Tantus because everyone else was calling it Mount Tantus.
Well, I've been calling it Mount Tantus all season, but I got to thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? They never refer to it as Mount Tantus. Excuse me. The planet is, man, if you could hear me gurgling over the mic, that's pretty gross. But that's why I should never drink Coca-Cola during the show. It's giving me some bubbles or something, man. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to point out. Just
okay.
Wayland Tantus, what's the deal?
What's the deal with Wayland Tantus? Eric from Phoenix. Oh, come on, Eric. You didn't have to do that. Another $5 here. Crap. Tech, not echo. Too much multitasking. We know what you meant. We knew what you meant. Don't worry about it, man.
Get this correction through.
Ferris84 says, Big Bang for the Bad Batch Buck, Baba Booey. Major Bond film vibes in the summit. Evil Mountain Fortress, the swell of music, high stakes, thoughts? Somebody else was saying that Tech's fall looked like Trevelyan's in GoldenEye. That's true. It did look a little bit like that as he plummeted. And I always love a little, it did have sort of that lair, the Bond villain lair, Tarkin's place there on, what was it, Iridiu?
When if you listen closely, when Tech was falling, he was saying, Mr. Bond!
No, he wasn't. No,
Swank's coughing up a lung, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, it's rough.
Boy, we're both making some weird bodily noises tonight, but that's fun. That's what live is all about.
That's right.
And yeah, but Tech, yeah, he's not dead.
All right, we got Ben from Pennsylvania. Ben, you're on with Rebel Force Radio and the Bad Batch After Show.
Hey there, Blizz.
Hey, boyo.
Here, glad you took my call.
Well, we're glad to have your call.
And I was absolutely. So I was just a few months ago on the Andor After Show, and I couldn't hear Jimmy. So it's good to.
We fixed it.
Hopefully, Jimmy.
We fixed it. Let's test it. Hold on, Max. Say something to Ben.
Something to Ben. Did he hear that?
You heard that, right?
Hello? No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, come on.
Get out of here, Ben.
There we go.
He's punking us.
Quit messing around, Ben.
So, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Jimmy, on the summit. I thought it was kind of a big bucket of lame sauce, just a couple of old parts sitting around the table. I was really hoping that we'd learn a little bit more about how Mark's playing with the clones. We did get a little bit of dialogue about the cloning and how he was playing it and stuff, but and it did have to do with the Emperor's plan, so we kind of figured that already.
Oh!
But I was really hoping for
Ben,
a little bit more.
Hold on a second, Ben. I got to interrupt you just because you said something, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't get it on my notes. But Nala say, she don't say much, but she say something, and what Nala say was that the Emperor's plan is impossible. What the Emperor wants is impossible, and Hemlock goes, "Wow, you better figure out a way to make it possible."
Yeah. But that makes sense.
It does make sense.
That makes sense because it appears they're doing the same old experiments 5 years after Return of the Jedi on The Mandalorian. So this goes to show you that these guys have been researching this stuff for a really, really long time. This cloning business.
And the best they come up with is Snoke. That's the best they can do.
It ain't easy, dude. Now somebody in the chat said, hey, no, they have referred to the planet as Wayland. And so I looked it up on StarWars.com in their data bank, which is all canon. And it says Mount Tantus, the majestic peak of Mount Tantus conceals a secret Imperial base on the world of Wayland. So, yeah, that's just a little technicality I must have forgotten. But with the descriptive audio track, every time they cut away to Mount Tantus, they would always say, meanwhile, back on Tantus, yada, yada, yada. So when they say on Tantus, I'm assuming they're talking about the planet. But I'm glad, because that was something that was sort of bothering me. But it has been confirmed to be Mount Tantus on the planet Wayland. So Joris Sabioth might be really nearby. Let's just wait and see. So, hey, caller, did you have anything else?
Well, before you let me go, I was just curious. It's not a passing reference to Rex being on a separate mission. Do you guys have any theories about what that could be?
Oh, did they drop Rex's name? I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah, Echo did. Echo did. Said Rex was off on another mission. Interesting. I couldn't even speculate as to what it is, but just knowing he's out there means he'll eventually show up to help our good guys win the day, and Rex will show up with a bunch of clone troopers. So that's what I think will happen. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's just out there
and then
uniting fellow clone troopers who are finding themselves being discarded by the Empire, and maybe teaching them how to not be so publicly opposed to the Empire so they can kind of work in the shadows. They mentioned they have guys working as contacts within the Empire. So that's all got to play out.
Absolutely. And just before you let me go, I'm just curious how you think Sid is going to factor back into season 3.
Well, Mac thinks that there's redemption potentially for Sid, that she may come in clutch.
I think so.
And help the Bad Batch.
All the way.
I was half expecting her to say, at some point, you didn't tell me that it was about the kid. The kid stays with me. I thought that she might at the very least, stick up for Omega. It's one thing to turn these soldiers over, but a little girl? Come on.
Something interesting about Sid's past is she mentioned it, sort of just an off-the-cuff comment, didn't she, in season 1, that she had worked with Jedi before in the past? So she can't be all bad, right? If she was sympathetic to the Jedi.
Right. Possibly. All right, let's go to Alex. Alex is in L.A. Yo, Alex, welcome to Rebel Force Radio.
Hi there, Jason and Jimmy.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
Doing good. I've got 2 things for you tonight. One was just that I loved these 2 episodes, especially Plan 99. I would say that I haven't been this tense watching Star Wars since the season 2 finale of Mandalorian.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, really didn't know what was happening.
I was clenching the butt cheeks, man, through that episode. And I don't want to pick on Mando. I love Mando, and I enjoyed this week's episode. But then I saw, watched Bad Batch, and it was like, man, and I know those pirates were, running around drinking, they're stumbling out of the bar and stuff. But boy, did the Mandalorians pick them off very easily. And here you got real struggle. You got bodies laying around and all that. So, yeah, it was just, I'm with you. It was definitely tense.
Yeah. And Kevin Kiner's music really added a lot to that episode.
Kevin Kiner is a master. He is phenomenal. Give him live action, give him a movie. I'd have no problem with that, honestly. I think he's fantastic.
Great. And then my second thought was just thinking ahead to season 3. I missed the beginning, so you guys may have talked about this, but I'm kind of reading that this episode was kind of the Empire Strikes Back moment, and that we may only get 3 seasons of this. They only get 3 seasons of this show, but the 3rd season will be the big stormtroopers versus clones. You know, they're going to take a big group of clones to go rescue all their brothers on Cantus. It's going to be a big battle there, I think.
Oh, yeah. All the pieces are in place for an absolutely explosive season 3, kicking off with the rescue mission to save Omega. Crosshair's still there. He'll be a factor, and they'll be reunited with Tech. So those 3 guys will bust out of that place, and they'll reunite with Rex and other clones, and they'll build up a whole civil war to take down the Empire. We'll see. We'll see. I think all the pieces are in place for an excellent season 3. But as we've seen with Star Wars, sometimes you can set them up, but you can't always knock them down. So fingers crossed that these guys really tighten it up and give us a gritty season 3 with high stakes like this episode. Top drama.
Thanks, Alex. Great call. Let's go to Drew from Ohio. Drew, what's going on?
Oh, man. I called in last week. And I feel bad for my doom and gloom prediction for the Bad Batch, not thinking we would get it so soon, at least part of it. So I'm hoping I'm not the manifesting reason for.
I think you're the angel of death. That's what they call you at the Bad Batch. You predicted this.
Oh, man. I'm just hoping Jimmy Mack is right in that, Tech's goggles are not enough evidence for our boy Tech to be gone. I'm picturing season 3 starting with a shot of him falling out of the clouds and somehow figuring out how he's been saved. That would be great.
Yeah.
But my other point was actually one that my wife brought up, and it was Emery Carr right there at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got the glasses, not exactly the goggles, and I think I too got her and Dr. whatever, the other one with the goggles.
Sculder.
Just like you at the beginning of the episode. But yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife pointed out, what if the Bad Batch turns her and they get there, if Tech ultimately is gone, R.I.P. Tech, they get their goggled compadre in the form of Emery Carr and turn her towards the Bad Batch side.
Ooh. What if? What if? It is a thought. It is a thought. I like the idea of there being, a combination of Omega and maybe all of the Bad Batch or some of the Bad Batch. I don't see them going there, but it's an interesting idea. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of the age issues, you look at a character like Omega, and as I said, you think of her as being an original. She's Omega. She's the original altered clone, whether it be Jango Fett. I don't know who the original host was, but she's the original. And now you're looking at her and it's like, wow, she's a copy. She very well could be a copy and wasn't the original all along. I mean, we know she's unaltered. I believe that was established, that she was an unaltered clone like Boba. I feel like that was established.
Correct. Am I the only one who felt like that would have been a cool nugget in any other episode but the one where we lost Tech? Like, I was so emotionally scarred from Tech that this is really cool that they threw this in here, but I'm almost just like, let me have my moment. I'm grieving still. I can't be.
Don't worry about it.
And have a cool moment right now. I need a moment.
Yeah.
Tech
It was
lives.
a lot. It was a lot going on.
Tech lives. Hashtag
Tech
Tech
lives.
lives.
Thanks, Drew.
It's already out there. I already put it out there.
You did?
Hashtag Tech Lives.
Oh,
I don't know if I
man.
was the first, but I just did it now.
Well, it worked for Ahsoka. It worked.
It did. And the Clone Wars in general.
Right. Let's see. You know what? We've got a special guest on the line. Check this out. We got Grand Moff Tarkin himself, voice actor, a good friend of the show here, Steven Stanton. Wow, he was in the chat, and now he's calling as we celebrate the end of season 2 of the Bad Batch. Steven, thank you so much.
This is Chris Walken here. I'm looking for Blake. Is this the Blake show? I'm looking for Blake. He called me. He said, I'm going to be on the radio. And I said, well, okay, I'll listen in. But, it seems to be over now. You two guys are on now.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint, Chris. We can't keep Blake on too long because he's got a bedtime. He's got to get up. He's got to go to school in the morning, tell all his buddies about Star Wars and what they missed.
Well, you know what? As long as we got Mr. Walken on the line, I want to make this a viral moment. Can I make this a viral moment, Mr. Walken? Can you tell us the truth about what really happened to Natalie Wood? I don't want you to dodge this question now. We got you here on the R After Show.
You asked me that the last time. I was on the show. I think that's all ground. We went over. That's water under the bridge. It's not a pun. Let's just move on. I'm gonna move on to more pleasant subjects. Okay.
Yeah. What did you think of the
still a mystery though?
I think I'm gonna get Steven. Hold on, Steven. These guys. Blake's not here. You want to talk to what?
It's all about Blake.
Jason and Jamie Mac. Hold on. Hey guys.
Jamie.
Chris, go get a Foster's out of the fridge and.
Are you still? You're still living with all those crazy guys, huh?
Yeah,
after all these years.
You guys were roommates.
Those guys. Well, Sean is no longer with us, but
right.
The other guys come by every night. I don't want to say every night, every once in a while, and they think the book club is still going on with Uncle Moralo and all that. And it's just like, no, guys, it's done. It's over with. We've moved on.
Oh, that's absolutely
great memories.
Just, knowing you guys still hang out, I think that's just terrific.
Oh, yes.
Well,
I think, I'm starting to think they're putting extra R's in my dialogue just for the purpose of what you guys are talking about here.
Well,
Tarkin's R trilling has gone to the next level in this season of the Bad Batch. You're bringing your A game, Steven, and your soft palate is probably...
Well, thank you. I think Jennifer and Brad are putting extra R's in the dialogue, to make sure they've got.
I see. Really get
the extra trilling going
get you on your toes.
Yes, I think so.
Perfect.
I think so.
Awesome.
Well,
I haven't heard that much R trilling since Eartha Kitt. So congratulations, sir. You knocked it out of the park.
So
it's like because Tarkin, he's on Raven's Peak. That's where his compound is on Raven's Peak.
Raven's Peak. And do you get the idea? Is that his home? Is he hosting this thing? That's where he lives? In that bunker?
Well, that's his home planet. Ariado is his home planet.
Right.
If you ever read the Tarkin novel, they go through the whole, he lived there as a kid and everything. So I think he's got an affinity, just like, everybody's got their evil castle on their home planets in Star Wars, it seems.
You're right. That's sort of a thing. Well, it's nice to see Tarkin has that as well. And it's really great to see Tarkin in the series. And it was funny. One of our listeners reminded us that it was Tarkin that sort of kicked this thing off back at the beginning of season 1. And so he is no stranger to the Bad Batch. And I had sort of forgotten about that his interest goes back to season 1.
Yeah, he kind of sent him on that bogus mission, where they found out that things were not quite the way that he laid them out to be when they finally got to the planet. So, yeah, he's been testing them for quite some time. He's got a lot on his plate right now. He's got the Deep Space Mobile Battle Station construction project going on. So, there's a lot going on for him in this time period. he's got a lot of things.
I just had a bathroom remodeled, and dealing with those contractors was something else. I can't imagine what it is with a full-scale battle station. Dealing with those guys, they come, they have all their tools sitting there, and then you don't see them for 3 weeks. Now we were postulating the idea that maybe some of the labor going into that Death Star, that maybe some of that labor might have been clone labor. I mean, nobody knows for sure, and even if you did know for sure, you couldn't tell us. But what do you think of that idea?
I think it's very possible, in the Tarkin novel, I think he even runs into some old clones there while he's going around doing his inspections. There's a scene where there's, I don't know what they're doing. There's a piece of equipment that's being moved and something falls and everyone's like running around, and Tarkin looks over and he's like, the guy that they're all yelling at, he's like, oh wait, I recognize that face. And he's like, oh yeah, he's a clone, slightly older, but yeah, that's a clone.
Yeah. I really loved in this episode where he actually talked about and reminded us that he had worked with clones before. And he was the one that made the observation about the Jedi actually sort of perhaps being responsible for them expressing their individuality. And I couldn't tell if it was fascination or disgust, the way the line was delivered. I guess it's up to interpretation, but what's your take on, how do you think Tarkin feels about the clones?
I think he feels the same way about the clones as he does anything, whether it's the Jedi, in Star Wars Rebels, he has this conversation, when he's getting ready to discipline Oresco and Grint, about how the Jedi are problems in the galaxy. And I think anything that stands in the way of his grab for power is problematic for Tarkin. So anything, if the clones can help him maintain or gain power, I think they're fine. If they starting to get in a way and become problematic, then I think he'll dispense with them as quickly as he would like to get rid of the Jedi as well. He's very focused,
everything's
pragmatic in that regard.
And of course we saw Tarkin have his history with the clones in the Clone Wars season 3, The Citadel, which I believe was your Tarkin debut.
Yes, as Captain Tarkin when he was still working with the Jedi and rubbing everybody the wrong way with his abrasive attitude.
So you look at a performance from back then. Did you reference your performances as Tarkin and say to yourself, boy, I would certainly portray him different in this era as opposed to the Republic era?
Yeah, I definitely always have to keep that in mind as to where, because in Star Wars, we do jump around the timeline a lot. So there's a lot to keep in your mind. Like, we also brought Masameda back this season. It's another character that I voice. And, it's like, where is that person now in the saga? And, how are they thinking and how are they presenting and expressing themselves? It's something you always have to keep in mind. The earlier Captain Tarkin was somebody who was on the same side as all of our, quote unquote good guys. He just had a different way of wanting to achieve the same goals. Now he's much higher up in the hierarchy and answering to the Palpatine, no doubt. So he's got other problems that he has to deal with. In addition to getting the job done, he's got the bureaucracy of the Empire that he has to work within as well.
Yeah. And he's got all these bootlickers around him, vying for his attention. You got a guy like Hemlock that thinks he's solved the clone problem, and you got Krennic, who is, he's all about this battle station, right? They don't call it a Death Star at this point. This is Operation Stardust. So yeah, he's balancing a lot of things. And again, not to put you on the spot, and there's likely no way that you could know about this, but if you had to guess, I know you're a big fan of this stuff. You're a fan of this stuff. If you had to guess, do you think that Tarkin has any idea about Palpatine's aspirations when it comes to cloning and clones and all of that? Or do you think he's more, the tactician, military guy interested in the hardware and the strategy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Palpatine would confide in him on that. That's up for grabs, I think. There's a lot of stuff, in Star Wars, you never know until they tell you, and then you're always surprised. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe it didn't before, but maybe it does now. So maybe Palpatine has let him in on the, on his thing. But I don't know. In a way, from the films, it kind of seemed that Palpatine kind of kept that under wraps pretty tight. I don't know who knew about it or not.
However,
it's a tough call.
Hemlock does say something about his experimentation on the clones that the Emperor has very strong interest in. So he must know that. He must be communicating with the Emperor. And we know Tarkin communicates with the Emperor. And it seems like these guys work under Tarkin. So I think Tarkin would be in on these cloning experiments. Maybe he doesn't realize exactly what the end game is. I mean, heck, I barely know what the end game is. I've seen all the movies. I've read all the books. I'm still trying to figure all that out myself.
None of us know. And it's, when Filoni's in the background actually pulling the strings, it can go in any direction. I mean, nobody ever expected, Darth Maul to be resurrected from the dead. And yet we got, a whole new chapter in his life as a character. I will go back to, once again, I know I reference this a lot, that the Tarkin novel, my copy of it is so annotated and it's got so many dog-eared pages in it because there's a lot in there that kind of sets the tone for that character. If you go back to that novel, you'll see that the Emperor pairs him up with Vader in that against Tarkin's like, I don't want to be with this guy. I don't want to do this. We don't get along. But Palpatine is like, he can see the bigger picture, right? As always. It's just that everything is coming together the way he, has foreseen it, right? So, he does put the chess pieces in place, and people don't even realize that they're being manipulated to execute his plan in the end. And, sometimes it works out well for them. I mean, Vader and Tarkin actually got together and, they worked together well, as we saw in The New Hope. They were side by side. And,
I don't know. Do
and
they
once
work
again,
together
I
well?
always go back to that. Well, I always looked at it this way. If you go back to the end of Revenge of the Sith, and Vader, even as powerful and as evil as he is, he's Anakin broken with a broken spirit. So he's kind of just going along almost like an automaton in some ways. He's just doing what he's being told and being guided, I think, by grief and rage. I think that's it. So,
It always just bothered me.
I think he and Vader had a relationship, but it's a funky one in the sense that, they realized how each one could help them, achieve what it is that they wanted.
Vader, in his interaction with Tarkin, the one scene that always bothered me was when Vader's giving a good squeeze on Mahdi, choking him out. And it was a good one for Darth that day. And then Tarkin says, "Enough of this. Vader, release him." And Vader's like, "As you wish." And he walks away. I never appreciated Tarkin. And then even Leia talks trash. I expected to find you holding Vader's leash. We're talking about Dark Lord of the Sith here. As opposed to this military guy who, doesn't really have... Vader, I think, would choke out Tarkin in an instant if he spoke to him that way, unless he was under specific orders from Palpatine himself.
Well, I think, you're kind of saddled with a couple of things. First off, if you're not looking at George Lucas's original, legal pad, handwritten version of the script, his story treatment, we're missing a lot of the pieces of the puzzle. And then you also have the real, just sort of like mechanics or economics of the situation. He pulled a piece out of a long story that he had and said, well, we've got to make this stand on its own on the screen. So maybe some things in here will be a little bit different than the way he actually planned it out, and the way we've since seen them played out, or have seen them played out since. So I think you always have to take that in mind, the realistic aspect of like, this is a piece of a story that was made in a movie in 1977, and now that it's a success, he can tell the rest of the story, and it's like, oh damn, well, what did I put in place there that I really didn't want to do, but I had to, because the movie wouldn't have made sense like on its own without it.
I got to be honest with you, Stephen. I've never treated Star Wars that way. I really haven't, even though that the story is taken twists and turns, and he's my brother right there. It's like, what? How did that even happen? But I never think to myself, well, the story just evolved in a certain way, because it seems like a lot of the things in the past still are being justified in stories and conversations these characters are having, and the way the story is continuing to unfold. I don't think you can write off anything. And I think that's a really important element of that part of the timeline, where Vader, for some reason, is subservient to this Imperial governor. When after that, we never see him being subservient to any Imperial outside of the Emperor himself. So, I think that makes Tarkin special.
Tarkin was as a person.
Right. I think that makes Tarkin
because
special.
Maybe after that, he never respected anybody else. I mean, that's part of what the novel is about. It's about the relationship that the two get, that grows between the two of them from working together, being forced to work together, not by choice, but the Emperor telling you two guys are going to take over this mission. So, I mean, they're sort of, if you want to call it camaraderie or whatever it is, or at least a mutual respect for each other came out of, that particular situation. But, Star Wars is full of unanswered questions. That's why they can keep making shows and movies, so we can answer all these questions. I mean, look what the Clone Wars did for the prequels, all the questions that it answered for so many fans over the years. It's been a wonderful way to fill in the gaps. And
it sounds like Mandalorian is fixing,
finale.
Mandalorian is fixing to do that very treatment on the sequel trilogy with some of its, I won't say retconning, but as you say, adding to the story so that those films might make a little bit more sense, and how the some of the various characters infiltrated the New Republic and eventually led it to fall into decay and sort of become almost a new version of the old empire that they were all fighting. But I will say, and I know it's not a competition, but I will say, when you got two Star Wars series on Disney Plus at the same time, you guys won this week. You guys beat out the other show. You really did. And I know it's all one big happy family, but congratulations on being a part of what I think is, you combine it, 45, 50 minutes of some of the, I think, most exciting Star Wars we've seen in a long time. These two episodes really delivered. Or I should say, really delivered.
No, thanks. That was
hats off.
I was very happy to be a part of it. Very happy to be a part of this season, and in particular this finale. And also, everybody was great, and I was so glad that they brought Andrew Kishino back as Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
He and I go way back, and the Clone Wars, and I'm always happy when they do tie-ins like that. And it was just his appearance there just threw such a monkey wrench into the whole works there.
He totally did.
You're sitting there like, even I've read the script, so I know I worked on it, but it's one thing to read it, and it's another thing to sit there and actually watch it in your living room, and you're gripping the side of the armchair like white knuckling your way through it.
Well, Andrew did a great job, and you could definitely hear the influence of Forrest Whitaker on the way he presents Saw Gerrera now, a little older, a little beyond the Clone Wars. You can hear that he's been screaming orders at the front lines for a while now, and that voice is starting to fade. But I also will say it was a missed opportunity not to bring poor Gullet into this episode.
Well, boar gullet, puffer pig, you got to choose. And, you got to keep these things, you can't overuse them. Otherwise, they're not special anymore, right?
That's right. That's right.
But look, hey, before I go, I want to just also not only thank you guys for all the wonderful after shows, but everybody in the Rebel Force Radio audience. You guys have got the best. You got definitely the sharpest group of fans. I've read, I've watched every after show, and I read the chats, and I'm always amazed at some of the things that people guess what's coming up in advance. Like, wow, they're right on the money. These people have they put the pieces together. It's fascinating. So my hat's off to you, and I want to thank everybody in your audience for watching the show. I really appreciate it.
Wow, it's very kind, and I know they were thrilled when you showed up in the chat, and even more happy when you called in, and so were we. So thanks so much, and all the best to you and the whole crew over there, Dutch, etc. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, you guys take care. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks,
What a great surprise, Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yes, definitely
Giving us a call.
I was hoping he was going to when I saw him pop up in the chat.
Yeah, me too. And then it didn't happen, and I was like, "What? Something we said?" And there he was.
He's like Tarkin. He has perfect timing most of the time.
Here's Seeker. Seeker says, "Love RFR. This season of Bad Batch felt really powerful. Slow to start, but it ended strongly. The loss of Tech hit hard for me. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I felt for Omega. I really did.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a tough scene. That was a real tough scene. And Wrecker too. Wrecker's sitting there at the bar. There's one moment where Wrecker kind of sniffs and he kind of wipes the tears from his eyes as Hunter is having the moment there with.
Was Wrecker wearing a neck brace in that last scene?
What was going on with that? Yes. Was it a neck brace? I thought it was like some sort of restraint or something, because they had him sitting there at blaster point.
He was wearing it when he was drinking at the bar.
Oh, he was. Okay. He was wearing it there too. So we zoom in here. Yeah. So
also, I love how he can take a stun bolt and just jump off the bar stool and rush right at the guys who shot him.
We all knew guys like that, right? Guys like that could take
punch
more
him
than
as
a
hard
stun
as you
bolt.
can in the face, and it only makes them stronger.
Yes.
That's
absolutely. A couple super chats here before we wrap things up. Maddie says, "What an episode. Those last 10, 15 minutes was one thing after another. Time to petition Bad Batch writers with hashtag Tech Lives. Don't worry, Maddie.
Tech lives.
Jimmy Mac is on it. Tech lives. Tick.
Yeah.
Turtle Wars. Double Star Wars and RFR after shows for a month. How awesome. I think I will be in withdrawals next week. You might be surprised. But it's been a lot of fun.
Well, no, we are doing a live stream on Friday night.
So that'll be
our response to the first day of announcements of upcoming Star Wars in London. And then we'll be back on the following Monday night, the 10th, and we'll do a recap of the whole weekend, because we expect a lot of announcements to be coming next weekend out of London. So we want you guys to join us, call us. We'll share opinions. We're
going to open the phone lines and just say, what do you think? What do you think about the big announcements? Because there will be announcements. We know that.
Yes. I will have my salt shaker with me so I can have that grain of salt with each and every announcement. Hey, whatever happened to the droid story thing that they were producing? It's supposed to be a ILM.
That's right.
CGI thing. I mean, but they announced that 2.5 years ago. We haven't heard a peep about it.
No. Scott P says, chut, Scott from Scotland here. Believe Disney Plus content is here to retcon the sequel trilogy. Bad Batch background on Palpatine cloning, Mando ineffective, New Republic to Rise of Resistance, all for it. Okay. I don't know about retcon. I wouldn't use that term. Retcon. I think it's there to enhance and explain. I know what you meant. But there are a lot of fans out there hoping for a retcon of the sequel trilogy, and I don't think that's happening. I don't think it's happening.
No, we've seen no indication of that happening. We've only received some hints, teases, clues. They're pretty heavy on that stuff in the Marvel comics from time to time as well.
Mm.
And then there was that novel, Shadow of the Sith, which had some interesting information in it as well.
Here is Chuck. Chuck says, no stun bolts against the imps. LOL. R.I.P. Tech. Yeah. Jeff Holland, one of my faves that shows up here for all of the after shows, a great guy. And including tonight, RFR has done approximately 19 plus hours of after show goodness in March. Thanks, J-Mac, Jason, and Tyler. One hell of a month. You guys should take a week off. Check notes. Nope. You got Mando and Star Wars Celebration live shows next week. Cheers. Oh, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, no, there's no rest for the wicked here in covering Star Wars. Salby Crum is back, says, great potential to dip into the horror genre here. Hemlock rounds up all the clones and transports them on a ship that becomes disabled. His gas gets released on board and boom, the book Death Troopers is now canon. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's get that out for October. We can get a Halloween episode of
I love it.
Bad Batch. That would be fun. That would be fun. Here's Tanya. She says, 99 heavy top fives Tech. The missions, the nightmares, they're finally over. R.I.P. Tech. I don't know, Tanya. I don't know. Is it over?
Hey, let me ask you, were you considering the possibility of Tech living prior to this after show?
Yeah, I was. I was.
No,
I really was. I just thought that they were, it just doesn't seem right. This isn't the right time, and I don't know that he's the right character to go. It's hard because you don't want to pull a Reva, you don't want to pull a Grand Inquisitor all the time, but they left enough mystery around the death. Again, nobody, Mac, you pointed out, we don't know what's underneath those clouds. Who knows? And he's right there at a top-notch facility where they might be able to, take care of him. It's Tarkin's compound, and they could certainly whisk him away. And if Tarkin is interested in the Bad Batch, you can imagine that he would be interested in finding what happened to Tech and if anything that they might have left behind.
What if Tarkin is suddenly feeling a little skittish about this new black armored Sith Lord walking around in their ranks, and he tries to recruit the Bad Batch so he has muscle to stand up to Darth Vader.
Wow.
That would have been very interesting, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
No, I don't think so. I think that a guy like Tarkin probably feels, if he doesn't feel some affinity towards him, which Stephen was sort of suggesting that he might, he at least thinks that he can use him and, for other purposes. Diana says, happy belated, what?
I just wanted to say, I just love how Team Tarkin Stephen Stanton is,
Oh, he's all in.
He's not just going there getting handed pages to read in a microphone and do an impersonation. He is Team Tarkin. I expected to find him holding Vader's leash.
Diana Orr is saying, happy belated birthday, Jimmy Mac. That's right. We got our birthday boy right here. And Megan says, any chance Tech could be made more robot to keep him alive like Echo? I thought about that too. And then I kept thinking about comments that we've made here on the after show saying that, maybe there was a little redundancy between Tech and Echo, and that made one of them expendable.
That's right.
So giving him those bionic parts.
Easy to forget that Echo was left for dead just like Tech is at the end of season 2 here. I mean,
right.
We didn't think Echo was going to come back, surviving the explosion on the Citadel. Another reference to the arc in which Tarkin made his animated debut, voiced by Stephen Stanton.
Now, Fee Genoa, this just in from her, she would like some robot parts on Echo. I don't know what that means, but she did say that that's something that she would like to see. Some robot parts there on tech. Disneyland Life 1984 says, FYI, Michelle Ang, the person that voices Omega, of course, had no idea that they would lose one of the Bad Batch members. So some real emotion from Michelle Ang, interview from Star Wars, I'm assuming StarWars.com. Interesting. I haven't heard that. So that might have been one of those, they did that on MASH. Remember that, Jim? They killed off that one character on MASH.
Yes.
They didn't tell any of the
Henry
actors.
Blake, the end of season 3 of MASH. None of the characters in the operating room knew that they were killing off McLean Stevenson's character at the end of that episode. And so then they had Radar O'Reilly go in there and said, helicopter crashed. There were no survivors. And then Margaret Houlihan, she's crying. Concerned look on Hawkeye's face as he looks at Trapper, and they're both kind of confused looking.
Yeah.
Classic moment in television history.
MASH had a couple of those classic moments. I think the series finale, the most watched finale or the most watched television show, I think.
Yeah. That was after Jump
time.
the Shark, though. I mean, if you listen, I just want to say this. Obviously, I'm a huge MASH fan. Huge MASH fan. I would have hosted a MASH podcast back in the day. After shows, everything.
Man, as a kid, I remember they would interrupt the news for a MASH rerun growing up in the 80s. Man, nothing stopped MASH from showing up on TV. Nothing.
This just in, new episode of MASH. And then they just cut away, and that's the end of the newscast. But the first 3 seasons that are some of the greatest television ever created. The next 2 following that are pretty damn good. But once you get past season 5, you start really getting into some rocky territory. I recommend any episode that has in the credits the name Larry Linville. You have to look for Larry Linville, Major Frank Burns. And then you are watching primetime episodes of MASH, because the show ran like 12 seasons.
Yeah, it was a long show.
Korean War was like 3 years.
Right.
MASH went out for like 12 seasons or something.
Hey, well, look how, the Clone Wars was only supposed to last 3 years. We've had 7 seasons of that. So, very MASH-like. Turtle Wars says, nothing. He just gives us a little cash. Thanks, Turtle Wars. That's very kind of you. This has been a lot of fun. I can't believe that this is the end of Bad Batch.
This is the end.
Season 2. What a blast it has been.
Yeah.
And one of our MVPs for the whole Bad Batch after show season 2 is our buddy Tyler Page. Tyler, our call screener and the official program observer. Tyler, thanks so much, buddy, for being here each and every week on the Bad Batch after show. There's still more after shows and live shows to do, but this is a wrap on Bad Batch season 2. What are your thoughts about this show? Your hopes for Tech, if you have any. And did you want to see Sid get a blaster bolt to the back of the head? She was walking out.
I'll start right there. Yeah, I would love to see Sid just get whacked, man.
Yeah?
The one difference that I think she has between her and Lando is she was signing them up for gigs and then taking half the cut. Lando was just like some guy we met, right? Or at least that was the impression if you just watched the movies. As far as the season, like you guys, I think you could probably trim some fat. But there's it made Tech much more important. And I think his I know you guys might not think that he dies. And for me, it almost doesn't matter because he's going through one of the hardest moments of his arc or his life. And I just kind of opened myself up emotionally to that when I was watching it. And I found myself, getting deep, like some of the callers and some of the people in the chat. It did hit me pretty hard, I'd say. And then just because I'm not even that connected, but they did show his character growth. They showed his personality, his connection to Omega. It's still a loss. So yeah, one quick note though. So Plan 99 has got to be a reference to Clone 99, right? In just meaning like, hey, we're gonna make this sacrifice like Clone 99 did back in the Clone Wars.
Right.
I think that, I'm sure that's out there somewhere, but I think that was a nice.
I didn't even
little
think
nod
about
to him. Yeah.
Plan 99, the sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if I have anything else.
No, I think that's great because, of course, 99, he sacrificed himself so his brothers could survive, and that's a great arc, and I didn't even make that connection. So thank you, Tyler.
Yeah,
good one.
Also, can we see Galen Erso escape plan in season 3? That'd be kind of cool. I would just like to see some more Rogue One lead-ins, because this has got to be around that time when Galen
I don't know. Is this around that? Are you talking about the first time he escapes? Before they round him up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes out and settles down on the farm.
Right. So maybe he kicks the project off, and then he thinks he's going to get away, and then Krennic shows up. It's like, yeah, you're not done yet. I don't know. We'll have to check and see what the time. But I like that. I'd like to see more of those. Those Rogue One elements. That's definitely a welcome thing for me. Well, thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll see you next week. There's more Mando, and we've got that coverage of that thing happening over in London.
That little thing.
All right. Thanks, pal. Jimmy Mack. Final thoughts. Bad Batch season 2.
I was not expecting a cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger I was expecting it's not really a cliffhanger. I thought the whole clone versus TK war would officially get underway at the end of the season. I didn't think we were going to have such a personal story about Omega getting captured by the Empire and leaving it open-ended like that. That's why last night I said to you, you revealed after the after show, the Mando after show, that you hadn't seen the Bad Batch yet. And you said, "How is it?" I said, think vibes of Empire Strikes Back, and I specifically was referring to the open-ended cliffhanger with one of the heroes being captured. And man, that was the longest 3 years of my life between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and I hope the downtime between season 2 and season 3 of the Bad Batch go by much quicker, both mentally and realistically. I have predictions for next season. Specifically, I do predict that Tech lives. I think with the help of Emery Carr, Crosshair, Omega, and Tech will escape. Maybe with Emery, maybe not. She might have to sacrifice. Her mystery is something else. That's going to be... I hope they don't dangle that for too long in season 3. I hope they give us some definitive answers on Emery Carr early. I hope the show doesn't meander kind of like it did in this season at the first half, when you had such a great setup being provided at the end of season 1, which eventually did pay off to a certain degree here in season 2, but it sure took a long time to get there. And even though I think that parts of the first half of the season definitely did meander, I think pound for pound, this was a better season than season 1. I think the drama was better. I think the character interaction was better. I think a lot of the situations they were put in was more complicated, more complex, more advanced. And it's given us a lot to think about. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Crosshair story play out, though, because in my opinion, the 2 episodes that focused on Crosshair this season were the 2 best. Let's see, just some observations I might have of these last episodes. Boy, was I confused with the guys wanting to go investigate the fact that many of the surveillance systems had cycle deactivations in various corridors. I must have had to replay that line 20 times, and I'm like, it's still, what? Why is this a priority for the guys? But it led them to Saw Gerrera, so naturally, I just said, what? Wait, what? That's such a technicality. What do they care if the security cameras are on or off? Whatever. I thought the crane in Tarkin's compound in the landing bay there. They had a crane that swung around, and Echo took control of that crane to create a diversion. I thought that crane reminded me of the crane from the vintage Kenner droid factory. So if you got some downtime, take a look at that crane and then look at a picture of the old droid factory. And I don't know, it just kind of gave me warm fuzzies. Thinking about sitting on my family's front room there on the floor there, playing with the old droid factory. That was only last weekend. Okay. What else do we have left over from this? Oh, we saw Scout Walkers. Is that the earliest appearance of Scout Walkers in the timeline? I know we saw them in Rebels, but I don't think we've seen any earlier appearance of an actual Scout Walker, ATST, in Star Wars prior to this appearance. So Tarkin's got those, or he had them. I think a lot of them blew up. What a great season. Like I said, pound for pound, I think this is better than season 1. I certainly have enjoyed all the conversation, all the chats, all the calls this year. You guys, like Steven Stanton said, he wasn't blowing smoke. You guys bring it, man. You guys bring the A game to these discussions every week. You always enlighten us. You always inspire us. And you're just a damn fine audience. Let me just say that. Puff a pig. Not in this episode.
All right. Well, that's definitely going to do it for us this week and this season of The Bad Batch After Show. Oh, look at Puffer Pig, man. What is that? Is that Puffer Pig butt? Oh, no, that's his face. Man, that animal, you can't even tell which is the face and which is the butt. All right. There it is. Don't forget, next week, Rebel Force Radio, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Mandalorian. We're looking at episode 6 from season 2. Check it out. We'll be streaming on the YouTubes. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube and all of our social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll notify you before we go live. But YouTube is one of the best ones because it happens automatically. I don't have to remember to post it and tell you that we're going live. It just happens. So please make sure you're subscribed. We'd also love you to go back. You know, there's so much chat activity, but go back after the chat, or excuse me, after the live stream and leave a comment on the video. That really, really helps us. We were talking earlier before we started the show. We get to see some of the ways that you discover us on YouTube, some of the other videos that people watch. And Mac was saying, man, we're not even in the mix with some of these Star Wars, the Star Wars content on YouTube. It's like, you know, they're covering, you know, Rebels in Mogadishu and things like that. And we think maybe it's because of the Rebel Force Radio. So anything you guys can do to help us with those algorithms, we appreciate. So please like and subscribe. And as Max said, we'll be back again also next week on Friday to break down all of the big breaking news happening over in London. So if there's breaking Star Wars news, we'll be bringing it to you, and hopefully we'll be doing it live right here on Rebel Force Radio. Well, again, we'll be back for more after shows on Wednesday. That's going to do it for us. That's a wrap on Bad Batch Season 2. See you next week. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Awesome season.